Why do you always look sloppy when other moms are so beautiful? I clearly remember when my eldest daughter, who is still in elementary school, said this to me on our way home from an open class day, where I had quickly dropped by from work. I guess she felt embarrassed because I didn't wear makeup and wasn't well dressed, unlike the other moms. Now when I think about it, I wonder if I have always been an unattractive mother in my eldest daughter's eyes since then. My name is Grace. I'm currently 54 years old and work part-time at a factory. I have 2 daughters who are now grown adults with jobs. My husband passed away in an accident 20 years ago with no family to rely on and no particular qualifications. I resolved that I had no choice but to keep going and have been working hard ever since. In the past, I used to juggle multiple jobs, but now I'm getting by renting a cheap apartment with just my part-time job at a factory. Mom, what about my allowance for this month? My eldest daughter, Emily, started living alone as soon as she started working after graduating from college. But she still asks for allowance, and this bothers me. What are you talking about? You're 24. You're a grown adult now. Figure it out on your own. No matter what I say, Emily never backs down, always snapping back at me. She often uses harsh words, and sometimes even throws things. Emily has always been like this, lashing out at me and her sister. I have tried to love both my daughters equally and discipline them strictly, but Emily has always been a trouble for me. You gotta be kidding me! Do you plan on making your daughter live a miserable life? Emily's sudden outburst always makes me flinch from wanting to run away from this tense atmosphere. I always end up giving her some money, even though I know this isn't right. I don't have any extra money this month. This time I handed her a single $50 bill. What am I supposed to do with this? Emily looks down on me, waving the $50 bill and snorts. Seeing Emily after receiving the money always makes me feel pathetic. Why don't you take on more jobs like before, instead of working only at a factory? Emily says coldly. She knows that I have limited my job down to 1, because my body is not as cooperative as it used to be after working non-stop for 20 years. Just as I was starting to feel frustrated, my younger daughter, Lisa, returned from work. Lisa, sensing something was amiss from my demeanor, glared at Emily. You bothered Mom for some money again, didn't you? No, I didn't. Emily avoided Lisa's gaze and quickly left the room. She always comes when Mom's alone. With a look of exasperation, Lisa murmured as she took off her coat. Lisa, who is 2 years younger than Emily at 22, is a responsible young woman living with me while working. According to her, she sees Emily as a bad example to learn from. I'm happy that she's so reliable, but the reason makes it hard to take joy in it. Emily was always a good student and wanted to go to college. I had a tough time raising money for her tuition. Perhaps having witnessed that, Lisa chose to start working right after high school instead. I'm still regretful, wondering if she actually wanted to pursue further education. After getting changed, Lisa took out an envelope from her bag. I bet your purse is empty because of Emily, right? Here, Mom. This month's living expense. From her modest salary, Lisa would hand me our living expense every month. Thank you as always. But why don't you use some for yourself, at least once in a while? I do spend some for myself too, so don't worry. It's only thanks to you and your cooking that I'm able to work and live this lifestyle. So this is the least I can do. Her response made my eyes well up with tears. I plan to save most of the money Lisa gives me, intending to give it back to her when she gets married. Of course, I'll also include some extra amount from my savings then. The money is securely stored in a vault, and of course, only I know the passcode for it. You must be hungry. I'll get dinner ready, so just relax for a bit. As I got up to say that, Lisa flashed a smile at me. I'll help out. Growing older certainly makes one more emotional. With that thought in mind, I wiped the corner of my eyes when no one was looking. Not even a month had passed since then. I've decided to get married. Emily's sudden announcement left both Lisa and I stunned as we exchanged surprised glances. I then shared words of celebration with Emily. Emily, often seen with a scowl, was grinning with delight that day. Even though she's often been a source of trouble, there's nothing more joyful than seeing my daughter happy. My fiancé, the son of a hotel owner, I got it made now, Emily said with a hint of pride. So I want to introduce him and his family to you guys. At that, I nodded in agreement. Sure, I would love to meet them, Dress appropriately, Mom. You always look sloppy. It's embarrassing. Emily's words made Lisa, who was sitting next to her, frown. That's no way to talk to her. I'm just being honest. And you, stop looking like you never went beyond high school. Emily fueled the fire in response to Lisa's objections. Before they could start fighting, I intervened. I'll be sure to dress well. It's an occasion to meet your future family after all. Hearing this, Lisa stopped herself from snapping back at Emily. Emily seemed to want to say more, but she left a note with the time and place of the meeting, and then went home for the day. On the day of the meeting, I wore a formal suit that Lisa had prepared and headed to the appointed place. Apparently it was rented, but the size fit perfectly and made me look good. Of course, I had also been to the hairdresser for the first time in a year, so I was looking sharp. Lisa, walking next to me, was dressed elegantly without being too flashy. The meeting place was a restaurant inside the hotel run by Emily's future in-laws. Well, you guys look all right. Upon meeting us, Emily spoke. I was relieved internally as she didn't complain about our dress. We entered the restaurant, walking through the elegantly furnished and luxurious hotel where Emily's fiancé and his parents greeted us. Thank you for coming all the way for our engagement. Emily's fiancé, whose name is Ken, was indeed a fine young man, as Emily had described. His parents, too, seemed dignified and calm. I'm Emily's mother, Grace. Thank you for inviting us. We exchanged pleasantries and proceeded to enjoy the meal together, a heartwarming experience. I was surprised to learn during the conversation that a date and venue for the wedding had already been set. I've heard you've had a tough time since losing your husband, Grace. What are you doing now? Asked Ken's mother, to which I hesitated for a moment. Emily might not like my answer, but I thought it would be impolite, not to mention pointless, to lie. I'm currently working part-time at a factory. My younger daughter has been working since high school. I honestly answered, only to catch Emily giving me a fierce look out of the corner of my eye. I felt a chill down my spine. In the next moment, my tense hand knocked over a glass onto the floor. I'm so sorry. Not a problem. But are you all right, ma'am? Ken, who had rushed over, was more concerned about me than the mess. I kept my head bowed, unable to look at Emily. With Lisa's help, we somehow managed to finish the meet and greet without further incident. Thanks for today. Everyone was so kind. I feel relieved. I told Emily on our way home. In response, she snapped. Why would you answer honestly like that? I can't believe you embarrassed me like that. She was upset about both my honesty about our lives and the glass-breaking incident. Unable to reply, I watched as Emily left without a word. I couldn't bring myself to call out to her again. The events of that day haunted me for a month afterwards, making me sigh heavily each time I thought of it. Why does Emily seem so embarrassed by Lisa and me? All we're doing is trying to live the best we can for our loved ones. I'm sure Emily will understand one day. She's getting married, and her circle of loved ones is growing. As I kept reminding myself of that, I finished work for the day and headed home. Once I got back home, after getting some groceries, I soon noticed that something was not right. The vault was open. I immediately checked inside, finding my bank book untouched. But all the cash was gone. Stunned, I immediately called Lisa. Normally, I would have thought to call the police, but in my state of confusion, that idea never occurred to me. Yet there was no way Lisa, who was still at work, could answer the phone, so I switched the call to Emily. Emily, something terrible has happened. Surprisingly, Emily answered the phone immediately. Since I expected her to also be at work, I felt a bit relieved. However, the words that followed gave me a great shock. Something terrible? You mean someone stole the money from the vault? Why? Barely able to speak, I heard Emily say, there was only $10,000 in it. Honestly, it was a letdown. At Emily's nonchalant words, I doubted her sanity. Actually, you set the passcode as your wedding anniversary with Dad. That was so easy to guess, Mom. From there, Emily began to chatter smugly. I don't think I gave her the spare key for our house, but apparently, she had made one at some point. It seemed she had been sneaking in while Lisa and I were away, trying various sets of numbers. I didn't think my daughters would know our wedding anniversary, but apparently she had seen the date written on the back of our wedding photo. I can only say I was careless. If it was just my money, I could still bear it somehow. But the money in the safe also included the money Lisa had given me. The money I was planning to give Lisa when she got married. Something inside me seemed to snap. I'm taking this money as a wedding gift, in compensation for making me embarrassed the other day. Emily's words felt distant to me. Low-income factory workers shouldn't attend weddings. The next thing I heard was this. The usual me would have broken down in tears, but I was no longer capable of feeling anything. I understand. At my short response, Emily seemed to sense something different. A small, "Huh?" came through the line, but I just hung up on her. After that, I received numerous calls from Emily, but after ignoring them for a while, they eventually stopped. And then Lisa came home. I calmly recounted the day's events. Lisa was furious, but she seemed to quickly notice that I was upset. "I'm worried about your mental health, Mom." "I'm okay," I assured Lisa with a smile, but her expression remained troubled. Half a year had passed, and here I was, still working my part-time job at a factory. Today's the day, if I remember correctly, if the schedule hadn't changed since our last face-to-face meeting. Today would be Emily's wedding day. We had changed the locks in our apartment after much contemplation. Emily and I hadn't spoken since the incident. She hadn't tried to make contact or come to visit. I was fed up with Emily after that incident, but still, I find myself worrying about her from time to time. I wonder if she's causing trouble for her fiancé's family, if they're getting along well. The anger I felt towards Emily and my feelings as a mother entwine in complexity. I'm still upset and shocked about the money she took from the vault, but deep down, I've given up on getting it back. No use crying over spilt milk, I thought, glancing at the clock. It was lunchtime. As I reached for my purse to buy lunch, I noticed my phone going off inside my bag. Probably a text or a call, I thought. But when I checked, I saw a slew of missed calls. All of them were from Emily. Thinking it must be an emergency, I quickly called her back. After several rings, Emily picked up, pleading, "Mom, help me. Isn't today your wedding day?" I asked, perplexed, but Emily just kept crying. "Emily, calm down. Where are you right now?" She seemed to calm down a little and told me where she was. Just as I guessed, she was at the wedding venue, where it seemed some sort of problem had arisen. I ended the call, asked my boss if I could leave early, and hailed a taxi to the wedding venue. Upon arrival, I could tell something was wrong. The atmosphere was frantic and uneasy. When I approached a staff member, they eyed me suspiciously due to my out-of-place attire. I explained that I was Emily's mother, showed them my ID, and they led me to the waiting room where Emily was. Walking into the basement room, I saw Emily in a pure white wedding dress, but her makeup was ruined. Her face was a mess from tears. Ken, the groom, and his parents were standing around Emily, all wearing grim expressions. They looked shocked when they saw me and quickly bowed their heads. I later found out they had been told that Lisa and I wouldn't be able to attend due to our busy schedules. Hardly having time to exchange greetings, I asked what had happened. Apparently, an unknown man had barged into the wedding ceremony. What's more, the man was said to be Emily's lover. It turns out he had tried to take Emily away with him, saying, "Let's run away together." He was promptly escorted out by security and is now presumably at the police station. As expected, the wedding was halted, leading us to the present situation. The shocking revelations left me perplexed, and then Emily began to sob and make excuses. "Even though Ken has money, he never spoils me. That's why I cheated on him. But I broke up with the other guy before the wedding. He just crashed the ceremony on his own. I didn't do anything wrong." "I don't like splurging, and you knew that. Besides, cheating while engaged, I won't forgive you for this." I empathized with Ken, yet Emily seemed not to understand, holding her head out, saying, "That makes no sense." It seemed like she couldn't accept her consequence. "I couldn't even afford decent dates or shopping with the money I took from my mom's vault. Nothing's going right. This really sucks." Emily confessed that she had taken the money from the vault. From her words, I unexpectedly found out why. She had used it to fund her relationship with her lover.
"Emily, no way. Did you use your mother's money?"
Ken and the others, hearing for the first time about the vault, were left even more shocked. Emily's story was incoherent, switching topics rapidly. It seemed like her emotions had exploded, and she was beyond help.
Mom made me live a miserable life growing up, which is why I turned out this way. Ken, you said you love me, so why can't you look past this? It's just a little affair.
I crouched in front of her and slapped her cheek hard. Enough already! I had never done anything like this before, and Emily stared in surprise, holding her cheek.
Mom!
I grabbed Emily's shoulders and scolded her. You can't blame everyone else for everything. You'll never find true happiness like this. Admit what you've done and apologize to Ken and his parents. I bowed deeply to Ken and his parents. I'll make sure she atones for her actions. Emily quietly watched me as I apologized. The usually defiant Emily quietly apologized to Ken, his parents, and to me as well. I think this was the first time she had ever apologized to me. Emily promised to return the money she took from my safe, and we discussed what would happen next. During our discussion, Ken decided to demand Emily repay the full cost of the wedding and pay damages for infidelity during their engagement. Of course, there will be adequate consequences for Emily's lover as well. At a later date, we agreed to compile the terms for damages and my repayment into a contract, to which everyone present approved. A lawyer who Ken's father arranged would be present during this. Emily is in for a hard life from now on, but she brought this all upon herself. I planned to watch over her quietly from a distance. I later learned from Lisa that Emily had quit her job a long time ago, fully intending to become a housewife after marriage. Now she is juggling multiple part-time jobs. Worn out, but still making her monthly payments to Ken and me. As soon as Emily's engagement was broken off, Lisa's marriage was decided. As Lisa and her fiancé requested, I moved out of my apartment to live with them. I've worked non-stop for 20 years, never really considering my own happiness. But now, I think I'll try to relax and live for my own happiness alongside my daughter and her husband.